Hola, Alex here with a new video, and today we are taking a look at a brand new lens by Viltrox, their new 50mm f1.4 Pro lens for the Sony E-mount. Now, if you're new to the channel, I have become a huge fan of Viltrox over the years because I feel like they came out of nowhere. A few years ago, they started releasing budget lenses that were actually really good. And over the last year and a half, they've ventured off into releasing more premium lenses. And this lens we're looking at today is actually the second part or the second lens in the Pro line of lenses that they've released in the last 6 months. They released the 85 1.4 Pro lens, which I reviewed and I will link somewhere up here. And this is their new 50 1.4 lens. The 50mm focal length is by far my favorite focal length. When I used to be a wedding photographer way back in the day, I could shoot an entire wedding with the 50mm lens and I was extremely happy with it. So I was super excited to test this lens out and see if it lived up to the Pro name. I will be showing you the images I took with this lens, and for context, I was in California last weekend. I decided to do a quick little photo session in Malibu with my girlfriend. I also got some pictures, which you will also see in this video, and I shot it entirely with this lens here and my Sony A1 II. I actually didn't even use a lens hood, so the images you're gonna see today were shot with no lens hood, and I think you're gonna be quite impressed. This lens here though retails for $549, and that's gonna be the craziest selling point because the Sony 51.4 G Master retails for $1,500, so 3 times the price. You also have a Sigma 51.4, which I think retails for around $1,200. I could be wrong now with the tariffs, it's all over the place. So it's still gonna be a little over double the price, which means this lens truly stands on its own when you talk about price point. But is it any good? Well, before we get to image quality, let's talk about build quality. So taking a look at build quality, this lens is made entirely out of metal and it feels great in the hand, but you also feel the weight. This lens is roughly coming in at 800 grams and it is a chunker. More on that later though. This lens does have an aperture ring which you can declick, an autofocus manual focus switch, and a customizable button. At the bottom of the lens, you do have a USB-C port for firmware upgrades, and the overall feel of this lens does feel premium, and by no means does this lens feel like a $549 lens. From build quality perspective, I have absolutely no complaints other than the size and weight, and like I mentioned, more on that later. But image quality. I know all you have been waiting for this moment. Is this lens any good? Well, this lens really impressed me. And here's why. Modern lenses now are sharp. I don't think I've shot with a modern lens recently that has not been sharp. So creating a sharp lens, I feel like now is just like the standard. What surprised me is that this lens showcased almost zero chromatic aberrations and zero purple fringing. In the image samples you're gonna see, I shot these photos in Malibu at golden hour. I was backlighting these photos and I was really pushing this lens to its limits with a 50 megapixel sensor on the A1 II and just literally having the sun blasting straight into the optical formula. And it performed so good. I was actually not expecting these kind of results. I was expecting to see a lot of purple fringing, chromatic aberrations, because this lens retails for 550 bucks, and I got none of that. Also, autofocusing. So this Viltrox lens uses their new, I think they're called hyperfocus, or actually, let me pull it up. It's a long name for sure. Dual hyper VCM motors, which means they're magnetic motors. And I mention that because this lens was actually extremely fast and extremely accurate. You can usually tell how accurate a lens is when you're backlighting a subject and you're having just the sun blasted directly. And this lens did not hunt once. Again, super impressive, and more on those motors in a bit. But from an image quality perspective, I shot all the photos you're looking at wide open because you get a 1.4 lens to shoot at 1.4, and the images are sharp, they're contrasty, and overall, like, I'm extremely impressed by the performance of this lens. So, I've been mentioning all these great things about this lens. Well, what are some bad things? And to be honest, I think there's only one major bad thing, and there's a few things I gotta mention, but the one bad thing is this lens is heavy. It's big. It weighs at roughly 800 grams. The Sony G Master 51.4, which I actually own, and I consider to be one of the best 50mm lenses out in the market today, This lens is roughly half the size and 300 grams lighter. So you're definitely getting a chunkier lens with a Viltrox, but you're also saving for 2/3 the price. You're saving $1,000, which is a lot of money. So what you're really trading off with the Viltrox lens is size and weight for a cheaper price. And it's not a terrible compromise. I think before, when you bought a budget lens, you were trading off quality, you were trading off optical performance, size and weight, and reliability. And I think this Viltrox lens, the only real trade-off at this price point is the size and weight, because the optical performance is incredible. Is it as sharp as the 51.4 G Master? I don't think so, but it is like splitting hairs. It's extremely sharp. This lens also does showcase some vignetting wide open, but when I tested this lens, it had 0 digital corrections in Lightroom. And most Viltrox lenses don't require digital corrections for anything. So you get a little bit of vignetting, not a big deal. And outside of that, like, it performed great. Now, if you're shooting with the A1 II or A1 and A9 and you want the fastest frame rates, Sony does limit third-party lenses. So that will be another area where you might do some trade-offs. But I also think if you're shooting with the A1 or A9, you're not buying a budget lens, you're buying the G Master. So a few mentions I gotta talk about. One, this lens does use Viltrox's new magnetic focusing motors. I say that because this lens, when it's not attached to the camera or the camera is off, the optical elements move back and forth. That's not a big deal, but I mention it because you will hear the optical elements and you will feel them. So let me show you. It's not a big deal, but if you do buy this lens and you hear it and you feel it, it's totally normal. I think the second thing I want to mention is Viltrox has really improved their aperture rings, and it was the same for their 85 1.4, but this 51.4 has a very clicky aperture ring, and it's very satisfying, and it's a nice touch from a build quality perspective because it makes me enjoy it, but you also really know when you're actually changing the aperture. Nice touch, and it's ironic because of old previous Viltrox lenses, I used to complain how bad their aperture rings are or were, and with their new Pro lenses, they are just phenomenal. But that's it, guys. Like, I think for $550, if you're looking for a budget lens, I mean, I don't know what else I can recommend. This is phenomenal. I am extremely impressed. Image quality is there. You're not trading in autofocus performance. Chromatic aberrations, purple fringing, I didn't see any. The only real con is size and weight, but at $550, I think most people can live with it if you're on a budget. And like I mentioned, if you're shooting with A1, A9, or you want just the best native performance with Sony, then you're gonna have to splurge the extra $1,000 and get a G Master. But I mean, what a time to be alive, because as a photographer now, we have so many options, and there are hardly any bad options. So I'm extremely impressed with this Viltrox 51.4. What do you guys think? You saw the images. Let me know your thoughts. Is this lens worth $550? What are your thoughts? Have you used Viltrox? Let me know down below as always. Also, if you like the images and you like the colors, I do sell my presets. I hardly talk about them, but they are available down below in the link in the description. Feel free to check them out. And as always, guys, I will see you on the next one. Have a good one, guys. Peace.